Before we get going, it's important to note that we were only permitted to use Sony provided B-roll. Rise of the Ronin sees you take control of a nameless work-for-hire warrior in what is known as the Bakumatsu-period. This era in Japanese history is notable for heralding the end of the militaristic Tokugawa Shogunate, as the country transitioned to a more modernized government that saw East and West collide. It was a period of cultural revolution and uncertainty, and this transition is evident in much of Rise of the Ronin's design, from the weapons in your arsenal to the architecture of some of Yokohama's buildings. Your progress through the game also introduces you to historical figures from throughout the period. The opening hours throw you into a boss fight against Commander Matthew C. Perry, whose American black ships ended Japan's centuries of isolation, while another of the game's earliest missions sees you fight alongside the legendary samurai Sakamoto Ryoma.
I will not die till I've netted this whale.
As a Ronin, you're thrust into the kimono of a samurai without a master, a wandering swordsman free to carve your own path. This freedom informs Rise of the Ronin and begins at the game's outset, as you're asked to pick your combat origins. Whichever choice you make gives you a slight boost to one of the game's 4 attributes: strength, dexterity, charisma, or Riz, and intelligence. It also dictates which special skill you start with, such as the ability to deflect arrows and bullets or the aptitude to deceive people in conversation. From here, the game recommends the kinds of weapons you should use, but you're free to choose whichever pairing takes your fancy. From the classic katana and odachi combo to the idiosyncratic mix of a bayonet and polearm. Each weapon type feels distinct, yet Rise of the Ronin's combat is built upon parrying and stamina management, regardless of your choice. Stamina is known as ki and determines how you and your enemies can act. Attacking, blocking, dodging all drain your stamina meter. Yet, much like Nioh, tapping R1 at the end of an attack recuperates some of your lost ki. If your stamina bar is completely depleted, your stance will break and leave you in a brief period of vulnerability. The same is also true of your opponents, so the best way to emerge victorious is by draining your foe's ki before finishing them off with a powerful critical attack, snuffing out their life with a burst of blood and missing limbs. You can try to achieve this cinematic flourish by hacking away at an enemy, but you're unlikely to slice through enough flesh before they wise up and start blocking each subsequent blow. To circumnavigate this, you can use Counter Spark, a method of parrying that deflects and neutralizes an opponent's attack if you time it correctly, causing them to become temporarily panicked. This opens up a window of opportunity for you to punish your foe with a flurry of offensive blows, preferably by using one of the martial skills. Special attacks capable of dealing significant ki damage. Knocking an enemy out of their rhythm with a well-timed counterspark is incredibly satisfying. The literal spark created by steel colliding with steel creates a visual and audio euphoria before following up with a grisly combo. There's more to combat than this, with long-range firearms at your disposal, different combat stances that match up with specific enemy weapons, a grappling hook that can launch objects and enemies, enemy martial skills to contend with, and much more. Nonetheless, the crux of each battle revolves around patiently studying and learning enemy patterns, even if that means dying a few times first. This might sound like the combat ethos of many a Souls-like, but Rise of the Ronin diverts from this path while still maintaining some familiar genre elements. When you die, for instance, you lose a currency known as karma, which you can retrieve by slaying the enemy that killed you. By delivering karma to a bonfire-esque banner, you can convert it into skill points to upgrade your character. This is par for the course. But Rise of the Ronin also differs from the likes of Nioh by featuring a regular XP that can't be lost. Because of this change, you might still enter battles with a hint of trepidation, but dying doesn't completely prevent your character progression. Add in 3 distinct difficulty levels you can switch to at any time, plus formidable foes that stay dead after you've defeated them, and Rise of the Ronin is a much more approachable Team Ninja game. It's still a punishing and challenging experience for those who want it to be, but at least now there are more options. Speaking of which, the open world setting lets you approach the game in various ways. There are side quests and optional combat encounters to pursue, with opportunities to clear towns of bandits or simply find and pet multiple cats. But Rise of the Ronin's open world activities are comparatively sparse next to many of its contemporaries, so don't expect to open up the map and be inundated with icons. Maybe this changes later on, but at least in the opening 2 hours, it's refreshingly streamlined and unlikely to contribute to any sense of open world fatigue.
本作の舞台の一つ、横浜です。19世紀幕末の時代、最初に国外に開かれた横浜では、和と洋が入り混じった独特の街並みが広がっています。主人公は舁き縄を使って屋根の上に登ったり、装置アビキルを使って高所から滑空し上空を移動することも可能です。攻撃やガードを駆使しながら敵の攻撃を石火で弾いて体勢を崩すことも可能です。敵の武器と相性のいい流派を選ぶと戦いを有利に進めることができます。戦闘では日本刀や長槍以外にも海外からもたらされた短銃などさまざまな武器が使用できます。発明家である伊賀七と因縁を深めるとさまざまなからくり装置を入手できます。鳥火砲は伊賀七が作ったからくりで、現代の火炎放射器のような強力な遠隔武器です。鳥火砲や和洋折衷のアクションである銃剣など西洋の技術を生かした武器をうまく活用すれば強敵にも打ち勝つことができるので、ぜひマスターしてください。幕末を生きる人物たちと紡いだ因縁が物語に大きく影響します。ぜひライズ・オブ・ザ・ローニンで一人の浪人として運命を切り開いてください。